In this video, we're going to continue to talk about right triangle trigonometry. And specifically, we are going to talk about inverse trig functions. We use inverse trig functions when you want to find the angle theta, measure of angle theta. So we're going to talk about inverse sine, inverse cosine, and inverse tangent, and this is a notation of inverse cosine, inverse tangent, and inverse sine. So they want us to use a trigonometric function to find the measure of theta and round to the nearest degree if necessary. So you have this theta. Theta is right here. And you have 11, you have 26. The opposite of theta is 26. And this is adjacent. Adjacent is 11. And we don't know what the hypotenuse is. However, you could find it by using Pythagorean Theorem. So, what is the relationship of this theta, 26, and 11? Well, you could use tangent theta, because tangent theta is opposite over adjacent, which is 26 over 11. Now, our goal is to find the measure of theta. So in order to do that, we need to use inverse tangent. So theta equals inverse tangent of 26 over 11. So now we need calculator to find the value of this. So again, make sure that in your mode, you have a degree. And if you want to find the inverse tangent, you got to press second tangent for inverse. And you need to put 26 over 11. And then press enter. So inverse tangent of 26 over 11 is approximately 67 degrees. So the answer will be approximately 67 degrees. Again, we use inverse tangent, inverse cosine, inverse sine to find the measure of theta. Now, what if we have this right triangle? You have a theta over here and you want to find the measure of theta. Well, what is given? What's given is hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is 12. What else? Respect to the theta, adjacent. Now, how is this theta and hypotenuse and adjacent related to one another? Well, it's cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse. So it's going to be 5 over 12. So how do you find the theta? Well, the theta is now going to be the inverse cosine of 5 over 12. Now we need the help of calculator to evaluate. So you go to second cosine for inverse cosine, and then put 5 divided by 12, close parentheses, and then press enter. So now this is approximately 65 degrees. And let's talk about angle of depression and angle of elevation. When an observer has to look above, to look at an object, you are creating an angle of elevation respect to this horizontal line. Now, when the observer is above and the observer has to look down at an object, you are creating an angle of depression respect to this horizontal line. So this is the angle of depression, and that's the angle of elevation. And this is a line of sight. So depending on where you look at the object, whether from above or from below, you could create an angle of elevation or angle of depression. So let's take a look at this problem. A ground crew worker who is 6 feet tall is directing a plane on a runway. If the worker sights the plane at an angle of elevation of 32 degrees, what is the horizontal distance from the worker to the plane? So basically what we need to do is we need to find this length right here. What's given is that the angle of elevation is going to be 32, and the height of that, this whole thing is going to be 150. So if you think about it, since the height of crew worker is 6 feet, we need to subtract 150 minus 6 to get the distance of this right here. That's going to be 144. Again, since the 150 feet represents the height of the airplane, in order to get the length of this, that's going to be 144. So how do we get the this distance right here? What is the relationship of this data? And that's adjacent, and this is the opposite. So adjacent and opposite, it has to do with tangent. So we could say the tangent of 32 degrees is equal to opposite 144 over x. So how are we going to find the value of x? Well, let's cross multiply. You get x times tangent of 32 degrees equals 144. And you have to divide both sides by tangent of 32. And now we need the help of calculator to evaluate this. And you will get approximately 230.4. So the horizontal distance is approximately 230.4 feet. It says solve each triangle. When they say solve each triangle, they want you to find the side of the triangle and the measure of the angle that's missing. It says round side lengths to the nearest tenth and angle measures to the nearest degree. So easiest one that you could find is the angle y. What is angle y? Well, you know that when you add three angles, interior angles of a triangle, you should get 180. So it's going to be 35 plus 190 plus angle y. So it's going to be 180 equals 125 plus y. Therefore, y is going to be 55. So we know that angle y is going to be 55 degrees. Now we need to find the measure of x and measurement of z. Well, in order to find the measure of x, look at 35. I mean, you could use 55. I like to use 35 because that was what was given originally. So look at the relationship of 35 degree x and 10. X is the opposite of 35, and 10 is the adjacent. Opposite, adjacent. So tangent of 35 is the opposite, which is x over 10. Now how do you find the value of x? You have to multiply both sides by 10. And now you have to use your calculator to evaluate this. And it's approximately 7.0. It says round to the nearest tenth. So x is approximately 7.0. Now what about z? Respect to 35. Now z is hypotenuse because it's opposite of 90 degrees. So z is hypotenuse, and you have adjacent respect to 35. So you could say that cosine of 35 is adjacent over hypotenuse. So now we have to solve for z. So cross multiply, you get z times cosine of 35 equals 10. And to solve for z, you need to divide both sides by cosine of 35. And now you use your calculator. And this is approximately 12.2. So now we found z, we found x, and we found the measure of angle y. So we found all the missing components. Now let's take a look at this example. You have two missing angles, angle J and angle L, and you have missing one side, that is K. In this case, it's easier to find the measurement of K first because you could use Pythagorean Theorem. So K squared equals 8 squared plus 11 squared. K squared equals 64 plus 121. So K squared equals 185. So K is going to be radical 185. Now, it's actually positive negative, but since we're dealing with the length, and length has to be positive, so we know that the K is radical 185. Let's just leave it like this for a second. Now we need to find angle J and angle L. So in order to find angle J, look at the opposite of angle J. It's 11, and adjacent is 8. So you could say that tangent of angle J is opposite 11 over 8. And in order to find the angle J, you got to do the inverse tangent. So J equals inverse tangent of 11 over 8. And again, you need your calculator. And this is approximately 53.97 degrees. Now, since you know that this is 53.97 degrees, you could easily find this angle because when you add these two, you need to get 90. So 90 minus 53.97 will be the value of this angle L, so which is approximately 36.03 degrees. Now, another way of finding the angle L is using tangent. Think about it. What's opposite of angle L? 8. And adjacent is 11. So tangent of angle L is opposite 8 over 11. So now you do inverse tangent. L is going to be inverse tangent of 8 over 11, which is approximately 36.03 as well. So now we found all the missing components. So we solved the triangle.